reimagining new characters like Bones McCoy, from Lord of the Rings, not to mention leading his own TV shows, Detective Kennex, and let's not forget, he is the law! Karl Urban!
Ottawa, how are you? Thank you so much, thank you. It's a real honor and a privilege to be here in your beautiful city, and my gosh, it is a beautiful city. I feel so blessed on this extraordinary weekend, and I've met so many wonderful folks here, and you know, I've worked in Canada a few times, and I gotta say, this is one of my favorite cities, and I'm not just saying that, it is beautiful. So thank you for having me in this wonderful place it is. I'm not sure what you guys would like to talk about, but I'm willing to talk about almost anything. So let's just open the floor up, get this show on the road. Hey, how you doing? Hey, it's good to see you.
Hey, good day, Karl.
Oh, hey, how are you?
That's bad.
I was just saying hi to a friend.
Welcome to Ottawa. My question is, what was it like working with an icon like Leonard McCoy, and who's your favorite Spock?
Right back at you, obviously. What was it like working with Leonard Nimoy, and who was my favorite Spock? Leonard Nimoy, I mean, first of all, like I guess many of you, to me is an icon. You know, I grew up watching the original series, and when I had the opportunity to be a part of the new one, it's something that I wholeheartedly invested time and energy into pursuing. Just meeting and getting the opportunity to work with Leonard Nimoy was so amazing. He is such a warm-hearted, generous, smart, altruistic man, and I remember being on set the first day that he put his ears on and became Spock again. I think it was the first time in 17 years. And it was extraordinary. I think all of us on set, including JJ, were in absolute awe that we were in the presence of this icon. And I remember Mr. Nimoy did his first take. JJ sitting at the monitor like this. He's watching the take finishes, and he literally does this. He goes up to give him direction. He's like, he literally had to collect himself because he suddenly realized, I'm going to go and give direction to Spock. What can I tell Spock about being Spock? Wow, am I talking like Bill Shatner, right? Thank you. Proudly brought to you by Starbucks. Hey.
I can't believe you were going to forget my name. Thank you for coming to Ottawa, and I had to write this down because I'll forget. I think you're an amazing actor and one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen. Please don't make me cry. I heard that you're a very serious actor and have a method approach to your acting, and that you like to prepare in advance for whatever role you tackle. What I really want to know is what you sing in the shower.
You want to know what I sing in the shower? Is that what you're asking? Many things.
What's your favorite?
question, actually. What do I sing in the shower? I'm trying to think. Well, I'll tell you what I'm really loving at the moment. And please don't ask me to sing because I don't know the words because it's just new, but you've got to check out the new album from Lorde. She's this Kiwi sensation. She's absolutely extraordinary, and it's not just like the songs Royals and Teen, which are the singles, but the entire album is extraordinary. It's one of those rare albums that you can put on the first song and just let it play. And I can't remember in this digital download age where we just pick the songs we want, where I bought an entire album and listened to it. So go buy Lorde's album, Cure Heroin. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Well, since my baby left me,
I was sitting beside her and she was really excited.
not as excited as you though, eh?
I blushed a little.
Come on, mate. Your secret's safe with me and all these wonderful people.
So I'm assuming I can say Karl since I yelled it off in the side, so thank you for that. But a lot of your roles lately have been, I guess you can say, very good chemistry with your partners. So Almost Human, which I'm very sad to see was canceled. Spoiler alert. I am a true fan, so I know that. But end of the day, anyways, your characters have always had such great chemistry. When you're coming on stage and you're doing your prep and you're doing your build-up and everything like that, how do you get that working so good for you guys to make your film, your TV show, whatever it is, so good?
Wow, thank you. Well, you know what? I'm pretty blessed because in the case of Star Trek and Almost Human, I have J.J. Abrams, who is the producer on those shows. And one of the things that JJ is so wonderful at is putting like-minded groups of people together who are smart, witty, funny, dedicated, hard-working people. And, you know, he, by virtue of that fact, creates an environment which is conducive to good work. And, you know, on Star Trek and Almost Human, you know, the challenge for all of us as actors or even as crew is to stop laughing before the cameras start rolling, as we have so much fun. And I think that comes across on screen. I think that energy is infused on screen. Almost Human was an incredible experience to me, and I feel very blessed to have been a part of that. It is sad that it's not continuing, but I'm also excited because it means I get to do other things. So for me, that's not a bad thing. I feel bad for the fans who were invested in that for the 13 episodes that we did get to make. But it was such an extraordinary experience. Working with Michael Ealy, Lily Taylor, Minka, Mackenzie Crook, everybody. The great thing about it, for me as an actor, and which is a rarity, is that, Michael and I would do a couple of takes on the page, and then we would riff, we would go off the page, and we'd improvise. And a lot of that stuff that you see in the car may not be improvisation, but comes from improvisation, or is improvised. The whole scan line, all of that stuff, we did that just on one take. The guys down in LA loved it so much that they sent back additional dialogue for us to shoot around it. So we built a new scene around that concept, the fact that he was scanning my...
Scanning your butt? They want to know.
They all know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Karl.
Good, mate. How are you?
Good. Right now, there's an online petition for a Dredd sequel. Quick two-part question. Number one, in addition to that, do you think a letter-writing campaign to complement that would also be effective in convincing the power brokers to greenlight a sequel? And if so, should those letters be sent to the studios, such as DNA Films, or should they also be sent to the distributors, I guess Lionsgate and entertainment film distributors? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question. You know, I feel very I'm very humbled by the fact that there is so much love out there for Dredd. I'm so proud of that film. I cannot tell you. You know, we had the budget of that film was, it's not correct, it's been reported that it was $50 million. We had about $30 million to make that film. And I think it grossed about 36 worldwide at the box office on its theatrical. But then it's found this extraordinary life on DVD and home box office and all of this sort of stuff, which has given, I think, certain producers a kind of another look at it and thinking, okay, well, you know, for a certain number, it is viable to make a sequel to that. So, you know, from that point, really, you know, I guess it's in the hands, because the way that the film was constructed financially was that independent territories were sold. Now, some of those territories didn't make money when it was released theatrically, so I think there'd be a few gun-shy territories out there. So I don't know how the structure of that financing would work, but I know that I'm keen to make a sequel. I know you folks want to see a sequel. Thank you. I think that, you know, there are some films that get sequels and it baffles me why. But this is a film that I could genuinely, I think that because it's people have, you know, really connected to it after it's theatrical, I think that the audience is only growing exponentially. And I really truly appreciate everything that everybody is doing to support this and helping it bring to fruition. So yeah, letter writing is great. It saved Star Trek from being cancelled. You know, I think, you know, those people that you mentioned, whether it be Lionsgate or distributors, send them letters to say, hey, we'd like to see more of this, because ultimately it's people power. That's what makes things happen. So thank you very much for your question. I do appreciate it.
Judgment. That's 5 years in the cubes, creep.
Guten Morgen, wie geht's?
Now this is a perfect segue. My question to you has to do with the accents that you do.
I don't know what you're talking about. What accents are you talking about? What are you saying? Are you saying I talk in a different funny voice?
Perhaps. I'm wondering whether it's a natural talent, whether when you were a kid you walk around doing the same thing, or whether this is a learned item that you do just for work.
This is the am I schizophrenic question. But an accent is like any other element that you work on in film or television, whether it's you know, riding horses or shooting firearms or swordplay, not that kind. And you have to dedicate time and energy into getting it right. And typically I'll work with a dialect coach, and then together we will hone the phonetics. Some languages are trickier than others. When I did the Born Supremacy, that was hard. The Russians do things with their mouths that are extraordinary. Unbelievable. So that was difficult. I could tell you a funny story about that. We were shooting the Born Supremacy. Okay, it's the scene where we were actually shooting it in Berlin. It was Berlin for Moscow, and I'm driving along in a BMW. I pull up. I spot Jason Bourne below the bridge. I pull up. I hop out. I shoot him, and I get arrested by these cops. Now, one of the cops was my dialect coach, and I was like, okay, dude, because we were improvising this. It was all just like, we're losing light and we're shooting fast and loose, and that's the way I love to work. And I went up to him and I said, okay, look, I need something to say here. I need, you know, something to say, look, I'm not Jason Bourne, I'm with the FSB, our suspect is down there, release me, let's go get him, all the sort of stuff that I wanted to say. So he told me this, so he was like, okay, he told me this stuff, and to say, and we get in the scene, and of course, because I only learned it 2 minutes before I get on, most of it goes out in one ear and out the other. I screech up, he arrests me, and all I can remember is FSB! FSB! So that's what I'm shouting the entire scene, FSB! FSB! All of a sudden this guy has a Russian monologue. It's like he's talking all this Russian at me. And it was kind of hilarious because all I could reply was that I was with the Federal Security Bureau. Yes. But yeah, I enjoy that. I enjoy that element of it. And for example, working on Star Trek, I've worked with Michael Buster. He's my dialect coach many occasions. And for Star Trek, for me, it was a two-part thing. One about Bones, about Leonard McCoy. It's as much a feeling as a geographical specificity about his dialect. I feel it, and then I have a dialect coach just to make me hone those sounds. So thank you for your question. Appreciate it. Hey, how are you?
First of all, hi.
Hey.
I want to tell you that you're amazingly charismatic and talented. My question was more about your work on Ghost Ship. You had a funny story to tell us about Ghost Ship.
Do I have a funny story to tell you about Ghost Ship? Yes. I almost got the director fired. We were in the process of shooting Ghost Ship, and I had this idea that I'd be having this shortly before my death, that we would have a scene where you could really kind of connect with Munda, and I guess his fear that he wasn't going to get out of there, and so I got together with one of my colleagues, Ron Eldard, and we thought about the scene where the two of us, we discovered this, in the kitchen, all this food. We start eating the food, and then it sort of, as we're eating and talking, it transforms into maggots. And so we pitched it to the director, and he loved it. So he wrote the scene in, and we shot it. But he didn't tell some of the powers that be back in LA that's what we were doing, and they see this footage that's not on the page, and they're like, what the is this? So he had some, maybe phone calls from Los Angeles, but in the end they put it together and they loved it, and they actually grew these maggots especially for the scene, and we put real maggots in our mouth, which sounded great at the time when I thought of it, but then when we were shooting it on set, I thought, this is the dumbest idea. Yeah, tasty tales.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. We're good now. I forgive me, I'm so out of breath, and I dragged all 3 kids so early this morning.
That's okay, you got your hands full there.
I do. My son watched Star Trek until late past his bedtime just so he could recognize you when he saw you. Sweet, that's Karl Urban. I didn't even give them breakfast, and my daughter left her shoes. That's how much I love you. Anyways, you're becoming such an icon and a role model for a lot of people, and a lot of young adults are looking up to you, especially since Star Trek. I was just wondering if you...
advice to give to young adolescents and young people, because you're a celebrity, and also just not the same advice like stay in school. My son knows that, but anything else would be great.
Yeah, I think, if your child comes to you and says, Mom, Dad, I want to be an actor, you say, no, son, you pronounced it wrong, it's doctor. No, but seriously, don't do it. No, seriously, this is what I personally believe. I don't feel that, no matter what your chosen vocation or passion is in life, first of all, if you choose something to do that you love, then you cannot go wrong. Secondly, invest in yourself. Invest in your craft. You think about it, a boxer doesn't come out of the corner of the ring and that's the first time they've thrown a punch in 6 months. They've trained hard for it. And I have the same approach to my work. And I think that, the more you put into, whatever it is that you endeavor to do in life, the more you're going to get from it. I also believe in the power of positive affirmations. I believe in the power of positive thinking. I think that you can, by thinking negatively, if you think I'm never going to achieve X, guess what? You're not. What you have to do is say, I'm going to achieve X. This is what I'm going to do. And even if you only get 3/4 of the way, that's 3/4 of the way more than you would have got if you thought, I'm never going to achieve X. So that's kind of some basic fundamentals of, of philosophy that have helped me. I believe in the power of positivity. I believe negativity is like, if you imagine a pond, a drop of negativity goes into the middle, ripples go out, they spread out. That's what it's like. But the same can be said for positivity. And I think that that's all I know. Thank you. That's what's worked for me.
G'day, how you doing, matey?
Are you a doctor?
Am I a doctor?
Let me tell you something, kid. Space is full of disease and danger wrapped in darkness and silence. One tiny crack in the hull and our blood boils in 13 seconds. So a little flare might crop up and cook us in our seats. And when you're sitting pretty with a case of Andorian shingles, see if you're still so relaxed and your eyeballs are bleeding.
Very over the top version. I was reaching for the back. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I am well. Your uniform is extraordinary.
Thank you. It's like
You picked the right department, I have to say.
know your audience. Dear Lord, what was my question?
Take your time. I'm all good.
I'm sorry. Okay. Coming from somebody who is going to theater school in the near future, this is sort of an area of interest for me. You seem to be, I could be completely wrong, but you seem to be a generally nice, happy, smiling person. My question is, how are you able to find a way to relate to a character that you have little to nothing in common with?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you. First of all, it's important not to judge your character. I've played some characters who've done some pretty atrocious things. And I'll cite Kirill in The Born Supremacy. My approach to that was not that I was playing an evil character, a twirl-the-moustache villain. My approach to that was I was playing a guy who came from a very rough background, who had lived through civil wars, who was doing a job, who had an opportunity to make money at doing something that he was good at, and there was no emotion in it. It's like, that's his job. He was just like, you know, somebody tells him to press a button, he presses a button. And in a way that he was desensitized to what he was doing, in the way that Jason Bourne was trained to do. And so that's the way that I approach the character. And I think it's always a mistake if you approach a character with some sort of general idea of I'm playing a baddie, I'm going to twirl a moustache and et cetera, then you're going to get a pretty shallow rendition. And again, I say the more work you do, the more you're going to see on screen. That's always sort of been the case for me. But yeah, most importantly, you don't judge your character. And yeah, thank you.
Star Trek to Dredd to some who might wouldn't mind even eating you, such as the orcs in Yurkai or the Rings. Based on your experiences gained vicariously through these characters, how would you survive a zombie apocalypse?
And here's the hook. How would I survive a zombie apocalypse? First of all, I'd find an island somewhere stashed with natural resources like coconuts and water. And good surf. That's what I'm thinking about it. And a surfboard. I'm in favor of weapons. In this instance, automatics, semi-automatics, shotguns for close quarters. Nitroglycerin is good. Claymores, take out a lot. Trapwires. Yeah, that'd be my general approach. Thank you.
Hey, Karl.
How you doing?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Not too bad.
So anyway, I have a comment and a question. My comment is actually my wife wanted me to let you know that she finds you gorgeous.
Oh, she needs to get out more. Just jokes. Keep going, please.
Just remember, she is married now, so. But anyway, my question is, you play such an array of like dynamic characters that really steal the spotlight on screen. So my question is, what character did you find brought out the best in you?
What character have I found that's brought out the best in me?
Yeah, like what character, like, yeah, this is me, this is Karl right there.
To tell you the truth, I don't know if any of them are. They all highlight aspects or exaggerated aspects of what I can be in a given moment. I really enjoyed working on Almost Human because I got to do, thank you. I got to do a wider variety of things, and I really enjoyed that experience. One of the scenes that comes to my mind was when Kennex is in anger management, and a lot of that scene is actually was actually improvised, and I was very, very happy to have that opportunity to play that stuff, and it was well written. The structure was there, but telling the guy, look, you need to get a divorce, you need to put the dog down and just stay away from peanut butter. It's as simple as that, And then, what about you, Éomer? It's an all of that stuff was was sort of off the cuff. But yeah, no, as I said, I think that there are many characters that you play that, you know, I think you can never really get too far away from yourself. But then there are some characters where you can be completely disappear. You know, I marvel at actors who literally, I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis loses himself. You don't see Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm a huge fan of Mr. DiCaprio. I think his work's extraordinary. Personally, when I saw What's Eating Gilbert Grape, I was like, oh my gosh, where did they find an intellectually handicapped young man who could act so well? And I saw him in something else, and I was floored, absolutely floored. And that was actually, you know, interesting. I mean, at that point, you know, when they gave the Oscar to Tommy Lee Jones for The Fugitive, and I love Tommy Lee Jones, he was amazing, but dude, I thought this guy was a retard. So extraordinary. It's, I'm meandering around. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you pretty much covered it all.
All right. All good. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Greetings from Middle Earth.
My question for you is, what is the craziest thing you did on the set of The Lord of the Rings?
What is the
Craziest thing you did on the set of The Lord of the Rings?
craziest thing that I did? Don't tell that story. I can tell you something crazy that happened in a scene that I was in. We were shooting down in the South Island on the Edoras set, or just below the Edoras set, which was extraordinary. It was this, they built this fortress on top of this sort of little mini mountain in the middle of this glacial valley. And we were shooting a scene that was in the Return of the King, where all the Rohirrim ride out of the gates and we're off on the way to Gondor. And there must have been about 200 horses and horsemen and women in this procession. And so about the third take, we're riding along, and I look to the side and I see one of the hobbits, their doubles, their stunt doubles, on a white pony, like bolting past everybody, like leading the charge. And I go, wow, you go. He's really keen to get to Gondor. Well, then suddenly, of course, I realized that actually he's out of control. And suddenly, you know, my sort of admiration turned to shock and horror, as William Shatner would say. And now, of course, it's actually an eminently dangerous situation because there's rocks everywhere. We're on these sort of grassy plains, but there's rocks protruding. He is bolting, he's only gaining speed. And so all of a sudden he bails, and there's this little hobbit going. It's funny now, but it was scary. It really was. And if he had smashed his head on a rock, it would have been lights out. But thankfully he was okay. They decided to CGI him in the scene after that. But yeah, that was a bit scary. It was a bit crazy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I stabbed a guy once. No, I did. I was on a film called Pathfinder. I don't normally talk about that film. But we were doing a shot where a Viking was riding along, and I jump out of a tree, and then he sort of collapses his horse into the mud, and I come up with a dagger, which is like a hard rubber plastic kind of dagger, and I stab him, and I was supposed to stab him through the hole in his arm, through there, to look like it's in there. I had mud in my eye, and I missed. And I got his arm, and it actually went into his arm. Oh, sorry about that, mate. That cost me a bottle of whiskey. Yeah. So just be careful if you're in a scene with me when there's weapons involved. Just saying. Sir.
Hello, Karl.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. I just wanted to say thank you for coming to Ottawa. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
My question is, IDW puts out a great title of Star Trek in the comic book universe that keeps us going until the next film comes out with all sorts of adventures. And I just want to know what your thoughts are on your visage, your character, having all sorts of adventures going on. Do you follow any of the comic book action, or what's your thoughts on that?
You know what? I think it's wonderful, and I'm constantly. It constantly floors me when I see artwork with McCoy and this whole sort of life that it has in graphic novel form. I have to say honestly, I haven't read many of them, but I do support it. I think that it's just a wonderful way to satiate that appetite until we get another movie, which we are starting at the beginning of next year. All right. And I see in the trades there, I read that a very good friend of mine and respected colleague, Roberto Orsi, who's one of the writers of Trek and many other great movies and television shows, and I've had the great pleasure to work with, is negotiating to direct it, and I certainly hope that is the case, because he would be the perfect choice to carry the flame forward. He gets Trek. And I couldn't be more thrilled and excited about the opportunity to work with that gentleman if that does transpire. As to where the character goes from there, I don't know, but I trust those guys, and I just look forward to getting back on set with everybody and continuing the story. And I'm excited about the realms of possibilities of where it could go. It feels like everything's set up, and yeah, I can't wait.
Perfect.
Thank you
very much.
Hi, Karl.
Hey.
My name's Laura.
Correct.
I'm fan of Almost Human, and my question is, I really enjoyed the aspect of all the futuristic technology on the show, and I'd like to know what your opinion is about the technology that you work with, when you think it's possible that some of it may come to fruition in the future, that kind of thing.
Yes. I do think it's possible. Robots suck. No, I'm just kidding. I think that was one of the aspects of the show that I was really exciting week to week, was seeing this, this new technology and concepts that the writers came up with, and even if it was for the most part, a lot of it was used for criminal means. It was kind of scary and exciting. But I see, interesting, technologies that I think were on the show were my blaster. I love that gun. And I'm not a gun fan at all, really, but I liked that one. When we were shooting the pilot, we had these really small guns, big. And I went to the weapons guy and went, something bigger. Just a little bit bigger. And I did it really quietly. And so they designed this thing, like Blade Runner. Like Ricky Dickens' gun in Blade Runner, or something like that, big, boom. When it fires, no worries. So anyway, I turned up to set the first day, and we're doing a gun scene, and Michael Ealy hadn't seen this new weapon, and we're in the scene, and I pull out this hand cannon, and he looks at it. He pulls out 2 pistols. He had gone to the props master and, I've got 1 gun in the pilot, I want 2. I can shoot with both hands. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Hey.
I had a question about Price of Milk, but it's only one, so. I think that lots of fans, if it's not all of them, weren't surprised that Fox slaughtered Almost Human. We were pissed, but not surprised about after what they did to Firefly, and you kind of see it coming. And I was wondering, did you see that coming? Did the set saw that coming? How did you react to it, the cancellation and everything? Because, seriously.
How did I react to the cancellation of Almost Human?
Yeah.
Yeah, tragic. It was very tragic. Look, here's the thing about it. Sorry, I am actually generally having difficulty hearing the questions for whatever reason. I don't know if anyone can turn up this. No, just look, if anyone can turn up this, it might make it a little easier, please. Thank you. Okay, here's the thing. I had such a wonderful time working on Almost Human. I loved, as I said before, I loved working with Mike and that cast and that crew, that extraordinary crew. It was such an amazing experience. But on the flip side to that coin, it was hard. Working in television is a grind. We were working in the end there for the last couple of months, 6 days a week, sometimes 17 hours a day. I didn't get to see my family. And, you know, it wasn't quite what I had envisaged it to be on that level. Creatively, amazing experience. But the actual reality, you know, you probably all think that, you know, you live this amazing Hollywood lifestyle, red carpets and private jets and all that sort of stuff. That's a very small, fun element of it. I'm not complaining, but the reality is that 99% of the time you are working so extraordinarily hard, and I don't want to work that hard. I like working as much as the next guy, but not that hard. So for me, it was, you know, as I said before, I feel, I guess, most upset for the fans who were invested in that, who want to see more of that. And to me, that was really the biggest disappointment for me. But the fact that I get my life back and I'm free to choose other projects, the fact that I'm free to do another Star Trek next year, to me is a positive. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Can we expect a movie to just end the story, or nothing? Just finish like this?
Do you think it's just going to finish just having withdrawals? Yeah. You know what? In the end, you know, they ride off into the sunset, and you know, Dorian says something that really pisses Kennex off, and then he opens the door and kicks him out, and that's how it ended. No, just jokes. I saw that buzz through and through. I love that. There's the evolution of that. It was. You know, as I said, I just love working with Mike Ealy. He was just so fun, and you have to be so on your toes because he could steal a scene like that, and he did, 90% of them. Thank you for your question, and I apologize on behalf of the cast and the crew.
It's not your fault, it's fine.
That it is over.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bless you. Thank you so much. Sincerely from my heart, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi. So I have a question for you about Dredd and your work on it. Did you have to do any sort of facial exercises to be able to scowl that hard for that?
Facial exercises. Where's your head at? Just kidding. Yeah, here's the thing about Dredd. You know, it's quite often in your life when you take the biggest risks that I think you reap the greatest rewards. I found that with Star Trek filming stuff. I digress. In Bill Shatner. Why am I going there today? But Star Trek, making the first movie for me was an experience that was laced with some degree of anxiety because I didn't quite know where the line was between, I guess, imbuing a sense of what the late great D. Forrest Kelly had done and doing an imitation, which I did not want to do. I needed to imbue certain characteristics and sensibilities and a feel of the character, but not imitating. That would have been a mistake. And I didn't always know where that line was. So for me, that was, it led to a few sleepless nights in the first movie. The second movie, we hit the ground running. I think everybody was comfortable. They knew what they were doing. They knew their archetypes, and it was a lot easier and more fun on that level. Dredd for me was very, very similar because I'd never done mask work before, and essentially that's what I was doing. I mean, the challenge was, how do you convey an emotion like hope, or or fear, or disapproval, or approval, or anything like that, when all you've got to work with is that, that. But it was an interesting exercise, and I think that partly due to the caliber of writing from Alex Garland, who was extraordinary, that it came across. It was amazing how much came across. And obviously I felt that it was very important to honour what John Wagner had written. When I first heard they were doing a reboot of Dredd, I was sceptical because I was a fan of that comic in my youth. And I was like, okay, well, if I read it and Dredd takes off his helmet, I'm not even going to bother to meet these people. Well, I read the script and I couldn't put it down. It was a page turner. So I went to Los Angeles and met with Alex Garland and Andrew McDonald and Alon and the director. And Alex was like, you do realise that, Dredd doesn't remove his helmet. And I said to him, mate, if I'd read that script and he took his helmet off, we wouldn't be having this meeting. And I think right there, they're like, this is our guy. They were afraid that they were going to pick some Hollywood type who would suddenly get right deep in the depths of shooting it. This scene, I think Dredd needs to, he needs to take his helmet off to, pluck his eyebrows or something, and demand that the helmet be removed. But to me, it was inconceivable to do it any other way. And as I said, I'm so proud of the way it turned out. And thank you for your question. Thank you very much. We've got time for one more. Last question. Hey.
So I may have been waiting months just to ask you this one silly question. I may be the only person in this room who actually enjoyed the Doom movie. Maybe not. So
there's two of you.
So what was it like working on that? How much experience did you have with the game beforehand?
Sorry?
What was it like working on that movie? How much experience did you have with the game beforehand?
Actually, what? The last question that we had, that was the last question. No, I'm just kidding. What was that like? I had a great time working on that. I really did. It was an eye-opener. We shot that in Prague, and again formed a company. Great guys. We were trained by an ex-SAS officer, and I became quite close to him. And the stories that he would tell are completely unrepeatable. But it was an eye-opener, and I had a great time working with Dwayne. He has biceps as big as my legs. He's a big lad. But no match for me in a fight. You don't believe me? Watch the movie. Just saying. But no, thank you. Awesome experience, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, listen, you've been a really wonderful audience. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much. If you want to come see me, I'm going down. I'm down at the autograph booth, doing photos later on. Come down, it'll be great to meet you. Thank you so much. Ottawa, you're beautiful. Thank you. Are you out of your Vulcan minds? Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, this.